When dog owners see how effective positive reinforcement-based dog training can be, they often ask us at School for the Dogs, will this work on my spouse? They might think they're asking a silly question, but they're not. Dog training techniques rooted in the science of behavior will work on people, and I've written a little ebook on the subject that you can get for free at schoolforthedogs.com/people. I promise I do not suggest anything that involves feeding your human loved ones milk bones. I hope this primer on positive reinforcement and how to use it with people and set up our learners for success will leave you wagging your proverbial tail. Check it out in the show notes or find it at schoolforthedogs.com/people. I am here with client turned friend, Meredith Witte. Meredith, thank you so much for being on this segment of Best Pet Ever. You do have one of the best pets ever. Why don't you just introduce yourself and then we can go ahead and talk about the lovely Miss Roma.
Oh gosh, I mean, I can talk about Roma for hours. So it's always so fun to talk to you, Annie. And you made such a big impact in my life.
Aww.
Because, I mean, when I got Roma, I didn't know what I was doing. So I think of you as this person who kind of saved me in this moment of crisis, which not that getting a puppy is a crisis, but for me, it was such a big deal. And I was so concerned that I was going to do it wrong. And you reassured me so much and gave me the tools I needed to raise Roma up, and enjoy the whole process.
Oh, well, pshaw. That's sweet of you. I know the first time we met, I remember sitting on the floor in your apartment with you, and you were holding Roma and you were crying, and you had just gotten her the day before. And yep. I kind of remember thinking she's really emotional, but you know what? That's not unreasonable. This is totally within the normal spectrum of responses someone could have when they're first getting a puppy, and she's going to be fine.
Love is strange. Yeah, yeah. Lot of people take it for a game.
My name's Meredith Witte, and I lived in New York for 10 years, and I'm a producer. And I decided one day I was really ready for a dog. I was in my 30s, and I lived alone in a studio apartment in Manhattan, and I didn't want just any dog. I wanted a Border Collie. So.
Yeah, now that's where I think you're a little nuts. So how did that come about? Now, did you grow up with Border Collies?
Well, so kind of, yeah. My grandfather had a ranch in Texas, and they always had 2 or 3 dogs, and the majority of them were usually Border Collies. Some were German Shepherds, but I grew up around them. So, whenever I'd go visit or during college, my childhood dog growing up was kind of a mix. It was probably like an Aussie mix, just a good old Southern mutt, but she looked kind of like that type of dog. But my grandfather had this Border Collie, a black and white one named Amelia. And I just remember being very attached to her, just thinking she was the sweetest, and she was so smart. She was pretty old by the time I was in high school, but she made an impact. And then before I got a dog, I did a lot of research, and I realized one of the things that was attracting me to becoming a dog owner was dog training. I just thought it was amazing, this connection that people could have with their animals. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to experience. And so in my research, it was sort of between an Aussie and a Border Collie, because that was type of dog I wanted. I wanted an energetic dog that was eager to learn, and I landed on Border Collie for all those reasons.
And you weren't put off by this breed that is so smart and so physically active, and knowing that you lived in a pretty small space?
It sounds crazy, doesn't it? It's probably because of my interactions with Amelia. She was so calm and sensitive and kind of reassuring that I guess I never thought of Border Collies as these hyper dogs that were anxious all the time, which I know is a totally fair stereotype for some.
Well, I don't know if I would put it that way, and I generally, for better or worse, shy away from making grand generalizations about breeds, because in my experience, uh, every dog is an individual, although they may have
That's
certain
right.
traits related to certain breeds. But Border Collies are dogs who were bred to work and to work with people, and are dogs that therefore, they're not like couch potatoes,
Yeah.
and they're meant to be just physically active and mentally active. And I think that for a lot of people living with that kind of dog in a studio apartment by themselves working full time, it would not be a good match. I say that though, knowing that you were a good match.
Yeah, well, my research on Border Collies, I figured out there were different types of Border Collies. There's the serious working Border Collies, and then there's Border Collies that, um, I guess for better or worse, you describe them as a little more on the show dog side. And so I realized there's going to be a broad range of uh, energy levels even within the breed. So you're totally right. Like, you shouldn't stereotype any breed. And I thought, well, maybe if I find a Border Collie that wasn't like just from like a working stock dog, that it might be a better fit. It would still have a lot of the Border Collie qualities that I was looking for, but not be a dog that was going to get so frustrated in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted a puppy because I wanted to learn and train from a puppy age because I hadn't had that experience before, and I thought that would be a great way to bond with the little dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to, I think, 7 different rescues in the New York City area, and to be I don't blame them at all. None of them were interested in uh, letting me adopt a Border Collie because I was a single person living in a studio high rise in Manhattan. But
And
it
they
was
probably didn't have puppies anyway, did they?
um, they were young enough. Like
Oh, they were.
would have been fine with, I would have been fine with a 6-month dog or something like that. I just didn't. Wasn't looking for a senior dog. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
younger. So um, anyway, I wasn't having any luck, and it was really frustrating. And I was dating this guy at the time who wasn't from New York, and he was like, "Well, why don't you just like go online and get the dog that you want?" Which did not seem rational to me at the time. But I started doing research, and I did find a breeder who only has like a very small breeder who only has like 1 litter a year and is really careful about, her lines and really cares for her dogs. In fact, we're still good friends. We Facebook all the time. Anytime I have questions about Roma, she's right there. And she's been a really great part of my kind of journey of raising Roma. So yeah, so I reached out. I found her on, I guess it was Pet Finder. I don't know. It was one of those websites. And and we started talking, and I checked her all out. And when she sent me that first video of Roma, I just started crying, and I was like, that's my dog. It was one of those moments where you just know. you know.
Wow. So what's Roma like? How would you describe Roma to someone who's never met her?
Roma is attentive and smart. She's sensitive and gentle, and she is focused on whatever activity is in front of her. She's a hard worker. I would say she's a hard worker. This is hard, Annie. This is like really. I'm sweating so much.
You're sweating?
I'm like really nervous.
Aww.
I think it's very vulnerable. Oh my God, you're gonna have to cut this part out. Oh,
No,
it's like vulnerable.
It's true.
To talk about.
It's okay.
Wow.
I think it feels vulnerable because it's dogs are with us for relatively short periods in our lives and know us like no other person knows us, you know.
No, it's just, I mean, I got Roma from a breeder, but I feel like, Roma found me. And I know that sounds whatever. She was the right dog at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just sounds crazy. It sounds crazy that I got a single woman in New York City in a studio apartment wanted a Border Collie puppy, and yet
made it work.
And it worked so well. And Roma had the best life in New York City.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, let's talk practically speaking. Like, what? Now you recently moved to LA, but living with her in New York City, what did you need to do in order to give her a good life?
Well, first thing I had to do was learn how to have a puppy, which that's where you came in. And I had to learn how to train a dog, which your school for the dogs came in. And I took a lot of those kind of classes. I had to learn how to crate train. And then it also, I had a neighbor. So like the weekend I got Roma, this person knocked on my door and said, "Do you have a puppy in there?" And she just became one of my best friends and was instrumental in raising Roma in New York City, for sure. I could not have done it without Allie. I just didn't know how much help I was going to need. And it ended up just being the best because I made a great friend, and it's all really due to Roma. So,
I know you brought her to the park.
So Central Park, you can take dogs off leash before 9 a.m. or after 9 p.m. They can just be off leash, and there's a lot of areas of the park where they can run. And what I found is the dogs that go to Central Park and are off leash during those hours are all friendly and well behaved, and I've had great experiences there. Far better than I have in like dog parks, actually. And so I started taking Roma there right away, but I didn't take her off leash, until her recall was really strong. So she was probably 8 or 9 months before I really took her off leash in Central Park.
How did you get her there?
Just a cab, on a Saturday morning at 7:30 in the morning. There's no traffic, so it was pretty fast. 10-minute, 12-minute cab ride straight up 2nd Avenue, and you pretty much hit the park. I would do that on weekends. During the week, especially the first 2 years of her life, I did a lot of classes at your school, and I did the puppy daycare a lot. And I had a dog walker if I couldn't take her with me to work. And she went to work with me a lot. So I'm fortunate enough that a lot of the places I worked, I could just take Roma and they loved having her. But all the reason she could go to work with me is because of all the training I was doing. So she learned, the place command, and she could settle when I needed her to settle, which is really important if you're taking your dog to an office situation. She's fortunately very friendly, and she's not aggressive toward people at all. And it was, that was really lucky. But I did, um, when she was a little puppy, and you're walking through the streets of New York, I can remember everybody wanting to come up and touch her. And if, something I sort of learned with Roma was boundaries with people. And so it was a lot easier for me to say, no, that you can't touch my dog right now. And so in a sense, I was learning um, a better way of interacting with people through Roma.
Right. And people don't
Always
understand that
appropriate.
it's not about them. It's about your, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like people are like, oh, well, I'm good with dogs. And I'm like, I don't care that you're good with dogs.
I definitely did learn to, people also have this desire for every time you're walking your dog for dogs to say hi to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I just really push against that because I would, and I think I also learned this, in your classes too. Just walking past other dogs with Roma on a leash, just calmly, that was one of the best skills she learned. Seeing another dog on the street does not mean you go up and greet the other dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this about having a dog in New York City: we practiced that every single time we left the apartment. If there's anything about raising your dog in New York City, it's they become socialized very early in life, very quickly, um, for better or worse. We were always practicing that. We were always practicing walking past other dogs, and we were always practicing when it was appropriate and when I was like good with it, greeting other strange dogs and greeting people. And I'm forever grateful that I actually raised Roma there because she is good in so many situations.
One way, though, that Roma has shown her smarts to me is how quickly she picks up just like tricks and fun stuff. So was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the tricks and fun stuff that you've taught her.
Gosh, she's so fast to pick things up, and she wants to learn so badly that I have trouble keeping up with her. I always say that I'm Roma's only limitation in life. And I will say part of having a border collie in New York is that she was a priority in my life, still is. I make decisions around her. I make just like, she's not a child, but she is, in the same way you would with a child. I make decisions about where I want to live and my lifestyle, and that was all on purpose. And I knew I was going to do that before I got her. So I make time to train her, especially those first 2 years. They were just critical. It was I called it 2 years hard labor with Roma because it was every day was a training day in my book. And I think it's why she's so easy now.
So what did that look like? Did that look like coming home from work and setting aside an hour to do training? And what, like, how did you even figure out what you wanted to train?
It could, or it would, every moment I was with her, I was thinking about what I was teaching her. If the TV was on, what kind of conditioning was happening? Was, when we went for a walk, what was I conditioning her to? I never, anytime she saw birds I would encourage her to look the other way, not chase the birds or the squirrels and so it's constantly having treats on you, right? And it's fortunately Roma is food motivated, which I think not all border collies are, not all dogs are, right? But she's pretty food motivated. So I found that was a really easy way to train her and to just teach her what kind of behaviors I was looking for in particular environments. So sometimes if I took her to work, I was kind of doing two jobs. I was training Roma at the same time I was doing my job, um, which not everyone can do. But for me, that was what I was doing for 2 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I got, I think, pretty good results. So she
Paid off.
learned, yeah, it really did, and it was, if she didn't come to work with me, it was really getting her exercise when I came home. There was also a field near the house right through the ball. Sometimes to my neighbors' frustration, I would play with her in the hallway as quietly as possible. Having my next door neighbor be my friend, like, gosh, we got her so much exercise between the two apartments. So all those things. Some of the fun tricks I was able to do in my tiny, 500 square foot studio apartment or whatever. There's so much you can do in a small space with the dog. And one thing I learned from you was that the mental stimulation was as important as the physical stimulation, especially for a dog like Roma. So just doing things like teaching her to count, or a crowd favorite is she got me a beer out of the fridge. I was trying to think of a gift to give my dad for Christmas, and my dad was a Southern gentleman, and he grew up where dogs lived outside. You didn't have a dog inside, but he loved Roma, and she was about 9 months at this point. And whenever he saw her, he would be like, "Roma, you're just a dog. You're just a dog," and in a really cute way.
Like
And
reminding everybody that even though she had the luxuries of a New York City lifestyle with someone devoted to her happiness, like
yes, yeah, and she got
she
all
should
the
know her place, but in a funny way.
yeah, in a funny way, yeah, in a really cute way. And so one of the things I learned in training was that you can put anything on a cue, and the cue can be anything you want, any hand signal, any word. It doesn't have to sit, doesn't have to be sit, right? It can be anything. So um, just a common trick is like hide your face with a dog, where they put their paw on their nose and kind of bend their head down. And I just thought it looks a little bit like the dog is being ashamed. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if, when my dad says, "Roma, you're just a dog," if she like hides her face. so so I taught her that trick with just a little piece of tape on her nose, and she would start, eventually she hit the tape with her paw, and then you click on it, and then, you shape it from there. And then I put the cute, "You're just a dog." And that's a big crowd pleaser too. But the best part of the story is on Christmas Day, I said, "Dad, here, Roma has a Christmas present for you." Uh, and I whispered in his ear what to say, and I have it all on video. And he says, "You're just a dog," and she does it. And she's like 9 months old. And I think it was maybe the best gift I ever gave him.
Aww.
Until he passed, he always had her do that trick in front of everyone. He thought it was the funniest thing. So, she puts her paws up on a table and then hides her face there. I call that "say your prayers." So it's like she's bowing her head. So that one is a crowd pleaser too. But maybe the easiest one that she does the most often is "like a lady." That is where she's laying on the ground and just crosses her legs. But what's fun about it is putting it on a funny cue like that, right? So, like a lady, and she crosses her legs, and she doesn't do it gently. She like slams her paw across the other one, almost like she's like, "Here's your lady."
Describe the work we did teaching her to count, because I'd actually never done that before, and it was a lot of fun.
That was interesting. It was new for all of us, including Roma. So that was a while ago. So I bought a bunch of tennis balls so we could have different amounts of tennis balls, and I was showing numbers on my fingers, so like one finger or two or three, and we got up to 5.
Oh,
And
I don't remember doing it with the tennis balls with you, but I'm interested to hear about it. What I remember doing is teaching, like, I
the
think
fingers.
starting out with like one finger held out, that with one one finger held out in one hand and two fingers held out on the other hand, and teaching her to target one or the other, and then adding the cue to that, basically.
Right.
Isn't that how
So
we did it?
yes, that is how we did it. I then moved on to do tennis balls. um, but that was just associating the same number, same word um, with the tennis balls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it started with like I'd hold up a finger and maybe two fingers and be like two, two, and then one, one. And then you hold up one hand with one finger and one with two. And you say one or two and see if she, touches the correct hand. So
And she was able to differentiate up until 5,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah, she's got till 5 pretty quickly. And you're like, okay, well, if she gets it more than 50% right though. So I legitimately, she knows um, what she's doing. When Roma messes up a trick, it's because she gets so excited because she wants to do the trick so badly. But if she calms down and you can tell she's thinking and not just reacting,
Mm-hmm.
then she almost always gets it right.
I would love eventually, maybe if we're living in the same place or even remotely, we can do more of that stuff because I think teaching differentiation is just so much fun, and it's so interesting to see how to just sort of
Yeah,
watch dogs learn in that way.
I
Um,
love it too. I was so inspired by that book Chaser, the Border Collie Chaser, before I got Roma,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and just how animals can learn uh, through the process of elimination.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a little bit what we're doing with the counting sometimes.
Well, Ken Ramirez is sort of the guru of teaching counting to dogs, and what he's done is to teach a dog to match, one dot to uh, a plate that has one ball on it versus a plate that has 5 balls on it versus a plate that has 7 balls on it, or teach the dog to indicate the something that a piece of paper, say, that has 5 dots on it to indicate that there's 5 yellow things on the tray versus 7 red things. And he's gotten dogs to count, I believe, all the way up, doing that kind of thing, all the way up to 13 or 14, um, running into problems after that with the guess that dogs may not be able to count beyond that so easily, but below that is sort of how many puppies they might have.
Oh, interesting.
So there's not a lot of purpose for them to be counting more than they would need to make sure that all the puppies are there.
I've heard of, uh, sheep herding dogs actually being able to identify sheep based on a number spray painted on the side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe isn't so much counting as just like I've heard of shepherds showing like the number 15, and then the dog can go identify which sheep is number 15.
Right. So it's just associating like
Not
the
true count.
image, right? Did you do reading with her?
We did try a little bit of that. Yeah. Yeah. Say, yeah.
Because that's something I would imagine she would pick up very quickly, which again, it's just about associating shapes, in this case, the shape of words, with an action. And you can use, I think the app I used to use was called Big Words
Mm-hmm.
on the iPad. I mean, you could also just do it with a piece of paper and a pen. But what's nice about doing it on the iPad is it looks very consistent. It's very high contrast, and you can quickly scroll from one page to another with, one page saying sit and one page saying down, or you could use an icon of a dog sitting on one page, an icon of a dog laying down on the other page, but just sort of swiping back and forth, and adding a cue, which is just the process of saying, showing the thing and then saying the word. And a dog like Roma, who's super quick, very quickly is going to be like, oh, every time she shows me that word that looks like that, she then asks me to do this thing. So I could just get my yummies faster by just doing the thing.
That's
Um,
that is those are yeah, those are all good things that we've tried, and I'm excited to do more of that. Some of then those are also great examples of indoor training that you just don't need much space for, and was
right,
very easy to do in New York City. My
right.
other favorite indoor, rainy day game was, scent work. So
Oh yeah, what's that?
I
How do you
started,
do that with her? Tell me.
I started with her finding a tea bag, and
Mm-hmm.
I had her go sit in another room, maybe the kitchen or the bathroom. This is back in my old tiny apartment. And I would show her the tea bag, like put it near her nose. Um, and I'd say, this is it. And then I have her stay. And then I would go and put the tea bag somewhere in the other room. And you start very easy, right? And then, well, actually, I guess when I first started, I would hide it under a cloth right in front of her. So she would start, just learn the idea of using her nose. And as soon as she would put her nose on the tea bag, I would click and give her a treat. So the next level is she goes into the bathroom and I show her the tea bag, she stays, and I put it somewhere very easy to find. And then I would go back and I say, find it. And then she goes and hunts for the tea bag. And eventually you keep upping the ante, right? And so it's behind the chair leg, and then it's up on top of the desk or in harder and harder places. And it's really fun.
Great game. What's funny too is I basically play the same game with Magnolia, my daughter.
Yeah.
Because she loves playing hide and seek, but she's really, really bad at it. Uh, like her version of hide and seek is like lying face down on her bed. That's hiding. like, like, if she can't see me, then I obviously can't see her. It's very cute. Um, and if I hide and I hide too well, then she gets really scared. And we're always getting things in the mail and things from Amazon. It's when she does get something, I mean, it's like a pair of socks or something that I got for her. Like I'll make her go in the other room and then I'll hide it under the couch pillow or something, and she has to go
Oh,
find it. I find similarly as with a smart dog with a toddler, I'm desperate often to turn anything into some kind of activity to keep everybody
super.
busy.
I understand. Well, I also, anything I'm doing around the house that I can basically have Roma do instead, I train her to do that. So I trained her to put away her own toys. Um, she can also open up her drawer and get all her toys out, which is
Mhm.
why I had to train her to then put them back. Um, I'm always looking for things like that with her because, she needs things to keep her mind occupied. Use lots of work to eat toys, the ball that they push around for food, or the puzzles.
Mhm, mhm.
They don't last very long, but it's a good short distraction.
Does she have a favorite work to eat toy or a favorite
Yeah, there's
product?
the tornado. I think it's is it Nina Addison?
Oh yeah,
It's
like the blue or yellow and green one that kind of
I like
spins
that one
around.
too. Yeah, she has to pull the bone toppers out, and then she spins it around with her nose, and
Mhm,
I
mhm.
enjoy watching her do that one.
Um, any tips for someone considering getting a border collie?
Well, it's going to take up a lot of your life. A lot of have the kind of space I would think a child would take up in your life if you're going to get a border collie. It's not this is a dog that needs a lot of attention, and I'm happy to give it. She wants to live life with me. She's not just um, she's not a dog that if I had a job 5 days a week away from home that I think would work very well. But fortunately, that's not the kind of work I do. So she's with me, especially with COVID, right? She's with me all day. So have a way to exercise the dog every day, multiple times a day.
Mhm.
And be willing to put the time in to do that. That's really important. Um, and hopefully, I would say if you're a curious person, then that might be a good dog for you because they are curious dogs and are just interested in learning and exploring everything.
Mhm, mhm. And living in LA versus living in New York City with
Well,
a dog. Does
I
LA win this one?
I will always have a soft spot for New York, and I'm forever glad I raised her there. I think they're just different, they're both great, but different. Here, I have a car and I have a communal yard where just walk out the door and throw the ball. But I don't have Central Park. There's no
Mm-hmm.
Central Park here. So it's, they're both great, but this is the best spot for us right now. I've made great friends with the neighbors, and Roma is an instant hit in the courtyard. And I mean, Roma loves water, so I got her a little kiddie pool, and Roma has her own pool in LA. I feel like people just have this idea that you can't have kids or dogs in New York. And I think you and I are examples of both where you definitely can.
Yeah.
And it's just a different lifestyle, but it's a great lifestyle. And
Maybe one last question if you're willing to talk about it, but you said something to me once about dating with having a dog and sort of watching how people you dated treated your dog.
yeah, it's, what's your question?
No, I mean, how have you found that you've been able to vet people based on people you've dated based on the way that they treat Roma, or have you felt judged by people that judged or the opposite, I guess, of judged by people based on your the way you are with Roma?
Oh, that's interesting. Not judged in dating. I think Roma Roma loves all people. She's very friendly, and she particularly loves men.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what's interesting is how different different men I've dated, have responded to her, and it is something I look for. And I don't. I'm more careful now with when I bring her in, because sometimes I was taking her on like a first coffee date or something, but there are some guys that are just kind of, if they're uncomfortable around her, it's good to know early, that's not going to work out.
I got to the point in dating before I met Jason where I was like, I'm just going to put my worst foot forward because I want this person to like me at my worst. So
I sort of have gotten to the point though where I feel like I don't think you get to meet Roma yet. You have to get to her first.
She's a
Um,
privilege. Yeah.
she is a privilege, uh, and she's a huge part of my life, and also I'm if not everybody's interested in having a dog in their life the way that I am, she's
Mm-hmm.
integrated is the best way I can put it. Roma is integrated into my life. Um, so people are always surprised when I take her on a vacation with me, or like I was in Vegas last weekend and people are like, "You took your dog to Vegas?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." Wasn't it was Roma was in the Cosmopolitan,
Did she
She put
gamble? Did you gamble with her?
I, I have video of Roma pushing the slot machine.
No, really?
Yeah, I gotta put a video together for her site. But yeah, I think this is, and I think she was really great in the casino, which again I attribute to her years in New York City. Like, it wasn't as overwhelming for her as it would have been if she'd kind of grown up in the suburbs.
Well, I know one time you said you went out with a guy who like talked to her in a way that you were like, you can't talk to my dog like that.
He was a little aggressive with her, and he was it was like he was frustrated when she didn't come the moment he called, and I'm like, you just met her.
Yeah, interesting.
You expect her to listen to you and come at your beck and call. So yeah, that was a red flag for me. Because who meets a dog and then immediately expects the dog to obey them?
Mm-hmm. Well, people have different understandings of like what a well-behaved dog is or what it should be. Um, I don't know. Someone came over the other day, and Poppy, who still has fears about people entering our apartment, Poppy barked at her, and she made some sort of comment of like, "Wow, you wouldn't think a dog trainer would have a dog who would do something like that." Um,
No.
I don't think she meant it in like a mean way. I think she was just surprised, and which I guess I get, because people think that someone who's a dog trainer, or who is just into training their dogs, they have a picture of like what a perfect dog should be like, whereas I feel like I have a more nuanced view of the picture, I guess.
Well, well, sure. I mean, if your kid cries, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent, you know?
Right. Right.
Like, people, I think there can be a lot of judgment around what, and exactly what you're saying, a well-behaved dog is, and dogs bark, and
Dogs bark. Yep.
and dogs poop sometimes in places you don't want them. The way dogs come into your life, and there's a million ways it can happen, but it's always special, and it always feels meaningful, and yeah, it's just however they come into your life is special and something to be celebrated. And it's an emotional thing when, because at the time it was emotional, but I didn't have any clue how much she was going to change my life. I've grown as a person, and I'm a better version of myself because of Roma, and I mean that genuinely.
That's so sweet, and it's so true that I mean, getting Amos changed my life in ways that I could not or would not have predicted. And
Which
I vividly remember when I first got him, and he was sitting on my lap, and I was my mom was driving the car, I was in the passenger seat holding him, thinking like, what if I don't like him?
that's funny.
Which, kind of, it's the same thing with now that I've had children, you just get this, little being plopped in your lap, and you know nothing about them. But I guess part of what love is the experience of spending the time and getting to know them. And how can you not
Yeah,
fall in love?
I think that's really honest. I appreciate you sharing that, because I never worried about that with Roma. Like the minute she was put in my arms, I of course cried, because I cry all the time. And but I was just so scared. I was so
Mm,
scared I was going to do it wrong.
mm.
I was so scared that, I'd made so many mistakes. I felt like, as I had learned about in my research for Roma, I had, researched dog training and everything long before I got her. I realized, oh, I did it wrong with my dog growing up, and I didn't want to make those mistakes again. And I wanted to give her the life that I felt like she deserved.
Why did you
And
feel like you did it wrong?
growing up,
Mm-hmm.
well, she was a backyard dog, and I think I used the crate as punishment instead of, I did punishment instead of like,
Mm-hmm.
positive reinforcement, because I just didn't know anything about that type of dog training.
That's so
Um,
interesting. I never thought about that I was going to do it wrong or right or anything. I mean, I didn't think of training as something that could be done right or wrong until it's, which seems so backwards now, until I was like, I think I want to work with dogs for a living, and being a dog trainer seems like the best way to do that. Walking dogs is not going to be interesting enough for me, but training dogs could be. And being a vet was not something I thought I wanted to be. It just seemed like the job made sense. and
mhm.
and it was only sort of after I settled on like, this is what I want to do as a job, that I actually started to think about what dog training actually was. But
Hmm.
but I also, I mean, I think I was a lucky person who had a dog that didn't require a huge amount of training, and didn't require like, he was just kind of an adaptable, affable, amiable guy, who was smart, but he didn't have the busy mind of a border collie. I mean, I think a lot of people come to dog training either because they have a sort of overly smart dog, we could say, or they have, or more likely they have a dog who has issues existing in whatever the environment is that they're being asked to live in.
Yeah,
Anyway, I think you guys have a beautiful relationship. You really, like, each one of you found the other one in the perfect way at the perfect time. You can follow Roma and Meredith on Instagram at Roma Love Pup.
Love is strange. Yeah, yeah. Lot of people.
Special thanks to Bill and Lizzie of Toast Garden for their version of Love is Strange. You can find them on YouTube, youtube.com/toastgarden. And just a reminder that through the end of February, we are offering free virtual consults to new clients. If you would like to talk to one of our trainers, you can sign up at schoolforthedogs.com/free consult.
It's money in the hand. Your sweet loving is better than a kiss. Yeah, yeah. When you leave me, sweet kisses I miss. Oh, Sylvia.